We've also seen tremendous growth in terms of open interest, with XRP actually hitting the 1 billion mark in just about 30 days, right? It took Bitcoin 3 years to achieve that feat. And not to be...
I think we don't really fathom just how big the institutional capital is, or the TradFi capital coming into crypto.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. In today's video, we're going to make another attempt at showing you all how serious everyone in the XRP army should be taking DeFi by utilizing direct linkage to things that Brad Garlinghouse has recently said, what the organizations are participating in and providing for regulated institutional grade DeFi, show you guys the devil's in the details and how earning yield on our digital assets like XRP and never having to sell them is a future that we are 110% headed into, that people should be preparing for with good education. So let's jump into today's video breakdown. First, I'm going to read these two recent posts from Brad Garlinghouse, and then that's going to take me over to an enlightening post that I put out to you guys, and then we're going to touch on these, going over documents, panel discussions, and video clips from some of the largest industry-leading experts in this space. So Brad here said in these two posts that I want to highlight, with today's close of Hidden Road, now Ripple Prime, Ripple has announced 5 major acquisitions in 2 years. G Treasury last week, Rail-In in August, Standard Custody in 2024, Medico in 2023. And as we continue to build solutions towards enabling an internet of value, I'm reminding you all that XRP sits at the center of everything that Ripple does. Lock in. Mind you, I highlighted Hidden Road, now Ripple Prime, and G Treasury. So we're going to highlight and talk about those two things. Then in another post, he highlighted an Evernorth post. Ashish and the team are building something special with Evernorth XRP. We are proud to partner with them and proud to join an incredible set of investors, including SBI Holdings, Pantera Capital, Kraken, GSR, and RippleWorks, to support Evernorth as it participates in institutional lending, liquidity provisioning, and DeFi yield opportunities for XRP. So Brad Garlinghouse is directly coming out and telling you guys that these yield opportunities are happening. So let's break this down for you guys real fast, because I said here in this post, why are we even touching on this? Why is the topic of today's call about DeFi and earning yield? I said here, the underlying mythology of the present age is based on the ideology of materialism, the notion that physical matter is the ultimate reality. This unstated yet dominant premise gives birth to a cultural ethos, which is devoted to creating, for the most part, efficient workers and consumers, rather than encouraging the quest for deeper insight and enjoyment in every area of life. Now is the time to focus on building digital skills that create wealth, revenue, and passive income. We have entered into an era where information, i.e. data, technology, and innovation are the new currencies. The people who take the time to learn, whether it's trading, DeFi, digital marketing, AI tools, or content creation, to name a few, are the ones positioning themselves to buy back their freedom. Money isn't the goal, freedom is. Money is just a tool that lets you buy back your time so that you can devote more of it to what truly fulfills your health, your family, your creativity, and your peace. Master the skills that make money work for you, because the more value you can create in the digital world, the more freedom you can earn in the real one. This is a very impactful quote, something that we stand by in the Wealth 28 Club. So let me show you guys that Brad Garlinghouse himself reciprocates this exact ideology, that yield generation with these digital assets, especially digital assets like XRP, is a future that we are headed into, which will free up a lot of people's time that invest properly to earn enough passive income in the future off of their XRP holdings to retire off of their investments. So if we come back over here, I want to take you guys over to 9 minutes and 30 seconds because we have the individual, I believe he's a CEO, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check his credentials so you guys know exactly who he is. Michael Higgins, the international CEO of Hidden Road, right? Obviously, of course, now Ripple Prime. And take a second and listen to what he said on this token 249 event that took place back at the beginning of October. He talks about how the collateral that is about to come on chain is going to dwarf today's collateral, and these institutions cannot invest in negative carry assets like Bitcoin, like XRP, that have in previous market cycles been negative carry assets, meaning they don't generate any yield. Well, now that is all changing for the first time ever.
A lot of people still want to trade the Bitcoin basis trade. Bitcoin is a non-carry asset. And so being able to post that as good collateral and have somebody like Hidden Road finance dollars to perhaps run a Bitcoin basis trade, where I think we're still the only FCM that takes Bitcoin and will finance dollars to cover span margining. In that setup, you need to understand not only and model the basis risk, but understand what that Bitcoin as collateral is. Playing on that, it's XRP, it's Solana. Moreover, you're starting to see that in securities. Everybody's been buying ETFs, and now you have security law interest introduced, but they're long ETFs, short front month CME future. Again, the liquidity side is really important. Josh briefly mentioned it, but I think it's really important that as large institutions come into this space, the quantums of collateral that they post will dwarf where we are now. It is critical that you have assets that pay positive carry for that, and those need to be digital. And so this is certainly, tokenized money market funds, the early stages of, BlackRock. And
so listen to what he's talking about. Tokenized money market funds, posting digital assets as collateral. He even specifically mentioned XRP. He even said Solana, right? However, these institutions are going to need to be able to post assets that can generate yield. And this is crazy. This is crazy confirmation that he just said the assets that are posted now as collateral are going to get dwarfed when institutions come on board. And again, if we come over here and we pay attention to what Brad Garlinghouse is alluding to, talking about how XRP sits at the center of everything Ripple does, he's mentioning Hidden Road, whom a gentleman you just heard from. Now, take a look closer at the G Treasury announcement we will hear in just a second. But if we go back over, and mind you, this gentleman just said lending out assets. Well, again, look at what Brad Garlinghouse had alluded to in this post. Ripple works to support Evernote as it participates in institutional lending, liquidity provisioning, and DeFi yield opportunities for XRP holders. Okay, this is crazy work. And so if we come over here to the Evernorth corporate strategy, take a look at this. It's very simplistic, 3 easy steps. It has no mention about selling XRP here, which I really want everybody to focus in on. That's the future that we headed into. It's not going to be a trading environment like the one that we exist in now. It's going to be a yield leveraging, collateral posting environment where digital assets are used with real utility outside of just trading. Step number 1, their goal is to accumulate XRP, acquire XRP utilizing innovative financial products with optimal capital structure to maximize XRP per share. Number 2, anchor expansion strategies in global markets, initially targeting existing high demand XRP markets in Japan and South Korea. And number 3, thoughtfully deploy XRP treasuries for risk-mitigated yield generation. Nowhere in here does it say in their strategy is to sell any XRP, all right? So just again, keep that in mind. Brad Garlinghouse is highlighting these things in his messages, in my personal opinion, pretty much subliminally telling you guys, hey, look, this is the new sexy, right? Pay attention to it very closely because this stuff is important. If you don't believe it is, well, let's just take a look at what the BIS is talking about and educating large industry-leading experts on. Well, BIS Innovation Hub, report 2025 from September this year, a BIS IH academia workshop, where I said here, the BIS Innovation Hub report definitely leans bullish for DeFi, especially when you read between the lines. Here's why. Central bank governors are for a fact being educated on DeFi. The report explicitly mentions seminars to equip decision makers with knowledge of emerging technologies like AI, distributed systems, and DeFi. That's a signal that policymakers are not dismissing DeFi. They're preparing to integrate it into their frameworks. You see, it says right here, finally recognizing the importance of equipping decision makers with knowledge of emerging technologies. The workshop has led to plans for additional seminars for central bank governors. These sessions will focus on key topics such as AI, distributed systems, and DeFi, helping governors navigate the complexities of the evolving financial landscape. So the reason, again, why I'm showing you this is because at the beginning of this call, we alluded to the ideology behind furthering your education in DeFi, how to get your digital assets working for you, because that is the future that we are for a fact headed into. And what led me to a lot of this is, again, some of the recent announcements. So if we come back over here to this post where Brad Garlinghouse mentioned G Treasury, we already went over Evernorth. Well, let's take a look at the G Treasury announcement. And the reason why I'm so focused on that is because the gentleman from Hidden Road, whom again, Brad Garlinghouse alluded to in his tweet, mentioned money market funds and posting digital assets as collateral. Well, if we take a look at this recent document, titled The Future of Asset Tokenization, a new token standard for institutional grade finance on the XRP ledger. And we take a look at what's happening. It says right here, the financial landscape is undergoing a significant transformation driven by the potential of blockchain tech to unlock new efficiencies and market opportunities through asset tokenization. The XRP ledger stands at the forefront of this evolution, uniquely positioned as an optimal blockchain for real-world financial use cases. The key takeaway here is that the XRP ledger delivers the most complete compliance-ready solution for tokenization with its multi-purpose token standard, the standard that the XRPL has. By embedding compliance, metadata, and control of features directly into the protocol, MPT removes smart contract complexity and enables real-world use cases such as tokenized bonds, stablecoins, and money market funds. Didn't the gentleman from Hidden Road just mention money market funds?
I think it's really important that as large institutions come into this space, the quantums of collateral that they pose will dwarf where we are now. It is critical that you have assets that pay positive carry for that, and those need to be digital. And so this is certainly, tokenized money market funds.
Yield generation, posting digital assets as collateral. Well, if we come over here again, it's talking about the capabilities that MPT provides. So it says here, enhanced global accessibility via metadata. The metadata capabilities of MPTs include the UR field linking to external resources, allowing issuers to provide asset information, disclosures, and crucial documentation in multiple languages or tailored regional formats. Then if you come down here where it mentions additional use cases and we zoom right in, it says right here, this enhances institutional DeFi, where institutions can use tokens, bonds, treasuries as high quality collateral within the XRPL's native DeFi ecosystem. This could allow margin trading, lending, and borrowing directly on the ledger. I hope that people really truly understand how much demand this is going to create for the digital asset XRP. The amount of capital that is going to flood into regulated, compliant blockchains is unprecedented.
But ultimately, as Mike and Josh and Giovanni have said, that once we unlock institutional capital, I think we don't really fathom just how big the institutional capital is, or the TradFi capital coming into crypto.
The G Treasury mention from Brad Garlinghouse's post. And since we're on the topic of lending, borrowing, posting digital assets to collateral, long story short, putting your digital assets to work. Well, let's just take a look at this and show you guys that banks are for a fact doing this, and then show you all that directly inside the Fed, sitting next to a gentleman mentioning earning 8 to 15% yield on US dollars, is sitting right next to a BNY representative who's putting out documents talking about integrating this technology. So I'm going to, again, prove to you guys that all of this is happening from a banking perspective to show you that this is not some joke. This is not some scam. This is not some hypey moonboy bullish video. This is real research. So check this out. October 16, 2025, Ripple, the leading provider of digital asset infrastructure for the enterprise today, announced its $1 billion acquisition of G Treasury, the global leader in treasury management systems. As the financial world's shift towards digital assets accelerates, Fortune 500 CFOs and treasuries need to be equipped to manage stablecoins, tokenized deposits, and other assets at scale. Ripple's acquisition of G Treasury brings digital asset infrastructure and decades of treasury experience to help customers move, manage, and optimize liquidity in real time. Ripple and G Treasury will focus on enabling customers to unlock idle capital, being able to tap into a multi-trillion-dollar global repo market via prime broker Hidden Road, earning more in short-term assets. Now, by joining Ripple, we are accelerating our vision from managing capital to activating it, says Rene Ver-Eek, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, G Treasury CEO, or her. Sorry if I butcher that one, or who that is. The combination of our cash forecasting, risk management, and compliance foundation with Ripple Speed, global network, and digital asset solutions create an opportunity for treasuries to manage liquidity, payments, and risk in the new digital economy. And if we come over here and we look at who's integrating this G Treasury technology, check this out. This is directly from BNY. And if we zoom in, it says right here, Liquidity Direct's integration with G Treasury Management Workstation gives you the access to the capabilities of Liquidity Direct without leaving the G Treasury environment. This integration allows you to achieve greater visibility in G Treasury to your cash balances and more efficient utilization of your assets. And this is directly from BNY, right? So it talks about how it works, gives you a little overview, talks about how it's being integrated into the banking infrastructure. Mind you, if we come over here, here's Brad Garlinghouse, just to show you guys that Brad knows exactly what he's talking about in his posts. hey, pay attention, knock, knock, digital assets, lending, borrowing, providing liquidity, DeFi, yield generation. He specifically said that in this post, right? It's right here. For XRP. He's not saying for US dollars. He's not saying for money market funds or anything else. He's saying for XRP. And the XRP in this post here is still sitting at the center of Ripple's core. And all of these organizations are, again, focused on building an environment that is going to unlock these DeFi primitives for digital assets. I cannot stress enough how important this is. So to put the icing on the cake for you guys, here's Brad Garlinghouse at the President Trump White House Digital Asset Summit, sitting right next to Sergey. And in more recent times, Sergey was sitting next to, here you can see, a representative, Jennifer Barker, Global Head of Treasury Services and Depository Receipts at BNY. You can see that right there in the background. Let me zoom in for you guys so you can see that. Okay. Jennifer Barker, Global Head of Treasury and Services Depository Receipts at BNY. And listen to what Sergey, again, who was sitting right next to Brad Garlinghouse at the Trump Summit, says inside the Federal Reserve. This is the icing on the cake that nobody can deny, that right here, they are planning for a future of yield generation. Take a second and listen.
You know, a year ago, I wouldn't have imagined. If you told me a year ago you're going to be at the Fed discussing regulated DeFi, I'd be right, Michael? Yeah. It's a crazy idea, isn't it?
No, I remember what we discussed 2 years ago, a year ago, yeah.
A year ago, right? 2 years ago, maybe, who knows? But sorry, it's a good thing. It's my way of saying it's a good thing. Thank you. So you have to get all three of those things to work. You have to get all three of them to happen, and then it'll all be lots of fun and a blast. And DeFi gets you 8% to 15% on the US dollar. So I can almost guarantee you that when you open the floodgates for people to get that type of yield on the US dollar in a compliant, regulated way.
Right? Earning 8 to 15% in a compliant, regulated way on the US dollar. And Sergey sitting right next to an individual representative from BNY. And I just showed you guys how BNY is integrating this G Treasury, whom again, Ripple just acquired. And in order to do what? To put digital assets, to put assets to work. And XRP is at the core of all this, right? This is a huge video breakdown, real research, real insights, no hopium, no hype. DeFi is one of those things that is going to drive a massive amount of institutional grade demand for the digital asset XRP. It is time to lock in. As always, be cognizant out there, be aware. If anybody's interested in learning how we put our digital assets to work, you guys can always head over to CYPRXtrading.com and check out how we are putting our digital assets in the DeFi ecosystem to work to generate us passive income. With that all in mind, be cognizant, be aware out there, and I'll see you all in the next video breakdown.